Hi, Pierre. Thank you very much for joining us today. WMC Energy is involved in the buying and selling of uranium for various clients. And why don't we just start right there? Who are your clients?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, great to see you, Jimmy, actually in person. Most of the time we do it over the video, but now I actually get to meet you. That's great. WMC, we trade not only uranium, also the other components of the fuel cycle, so conversion, enrichment, bundle it together, and it's enriched uranium product, or EUP. So we certainly deal with that as well. Primarily, utilities are our clients, but we don't have production facilities, so we obviously need to source it from somewhere as well. So we work with producers in general, suppliers, other traders. Our team has grown quite a bit over the last year or two, so we have a pretty good span over the market. We cover pretty much everybody right now. So it's I like some of the utilities I work with a lot. I've done it for 20 years. I tend to hang on to them anyway, but of course most of my work is with Sprott. But my colleagues, they can cover the entire market right now. So we have a very good span anyway.
So you mentioned you work or speak with a lot of utilities. Maybe give me a sense of what they're saying in this current environment. And I'm sure you spoke to a lot of utilities during this week at the Symposium.
Yeah, we've spoken with quite a bit, and I've been around in Europe now for almost 2 weeks. I've seen quite a few before as well. And the summer is normally quiet. Utilities going to take either the summer off, or it's just a quiet period in general. And then this kind of event, the Symposium, sort of kicks off the fall session, if you will. And there's going to be quite a lot of tenders coming out. Like we've been talking about this before, but the last couple of years or since the invasion, you've seen a lot of activity in conversion and enrichment, and that's obviously where the Russian supply is quite key. Now, utilities are ready to move on to procuring uranium itself, the U3O8, and we are seeing, it's going to be quite an active fall anyway. In the next couple of months, we're seeing 4 or 5 tenders coming only out of Europe. This is not even counting North America or the rest of the world. So it's going to be very busy. It's exciting to see, and they're getting ready to start procuring material. And we'll be right in there with everybody else and do some conversations with them and see what they want to do. And it'll be good, busy but good.
And I'm curious, when you speak to utilities, is there a difference in terms of their procuring strategies if they're based in Europe versus those in North America?
Normally not, but I would say now there's more of a sense of urgency if you're in Europe, because you are much closer to the Russia situation. Also, a lot of European utilities, or a fair number, a handful of them at least, they have Russian-designed reactors, and with those reactors, they've had sort of a lifetime supply of Russian fuel bundles. And that, of course, now they have moved away from that. The Uranium Supply Agency is saying that you cannot be buying Russian fuel anymore, so they need to diversify and go somewhere else. And obviously that means that you have quite a bit of a lot near-term demand, which you normally don't see. So that sort of when it spills over into the spot market. So it's a little bit of a different dynamic in Europe for sure, and clearly a more sense of an urgency. But we have seen activity in the U.S. I'm sure we will see activity in the U.S., but the majority of it is in the next 2 months anyway, is going to be in Europe.
And so let's talk about the spot market. Give us some sense of what's happening there. What are you seeing? And maybe speak to the liquidity.
Yeah, normally when you sort of the last conference in June, then you just you go to sleep or you take vacation for a couple of months and nothing happens. This year it's been different. Early August, the things started ticking up. Activity picked up. You saw a couple of utilities even were in there. Producers were in there. Of course, the situation in Niger, even though we don't see any direct impact on the production there, but clearly a significant amount of material of Orana's production is based in Niger, and a lot of that goes to EDF. Now, they have plenty of inventory, so there's no concern there just yet. But of course, it's being monitored very closely, and I would be surprised if entities have not started picking up spot material just in case there is a disruption there. So that started already in August. And then, of course, earlier this week, there was an announcement from Cameco that some of the production capacity in Canada is going to be down. So sure, that's not all Cameco's portion. About half of it is, a little bit more, but that also affects the French again, and a Japanese minority owner too. So clearly, not just the utilities need to buy. Now producers who were already short, now they're even shorter. Traders, opportunistic, of course, and knowing that there's going to be a lot of utility activity coming up, you want to make sure that you have those pounds. So there's been a fair bit of activity in the market just over the last few weeks. We normally would see being very quiet, and we've also seen the uranium price have ticked up, quite a little bit here, and we would expect it to be just flat. It's now up well above $60, which is the highest it's been in quite a long time.
And in terms of volume, would somebody be able to acquire 250,000 pounds or 500,000 pounds in the spot market?
Yeah, there was last week. There was rumors that there was about 500,000 pounds that someone needed. Now I think they managed to get it, but the entity selling it might not have had all of it. They had a bit of it, not all of it. So it might have been caught short, and that led to some of the buying that we saw last Friday. So again, this is not, we weren't involved, but yeah, when you're a tight-knit community, you talk to people, you can kind of start piecing things together. So it's regardless of the exact events that happen, it's a clear signal that it's extremely tight in the spot market anyway. It's if you're going to go out there, you cannot find a single entity that would sell you and have 500,000 pounds lying around. That I'm quite certain of.
80% of all trading occurs in the term market. Why don't you give us a rundown on what you're hearing and seeing there?
Yeah, it's obviously on track to be the busiest term contracting year for in over a decade, and it's still coming. Like I mentioned, there's 4 or 5 tenders coming only in the next couple of months, and that's only in certain parts of Europe. So there would be quite a lot to add to that, I think. Now, most of the time, the reported ones, the contract is signed. And this is a process that can take 6, maybe even 9 months sometimes. So even if the number is not going to show up in the total this year, it will still show up next year in that case, because the activity is still going on. There's ongoing discussions right now in London, probably a dozen of them right now, and they will keep going for the next few months for sure.
Per, you've been coming to the World Nuclear Symposium for many years now. Does anything stand out about this one from previous years?
Very vividly, the size. It's say 5 years ago, there was maybe not even half. Like you go into the session room over there, and it was not even half full. And today on the opening session, and right now in the closing session, it's standing room only. So I think it's close to 700 delegates, and that's it's as much as it's ever been. And I think it's a very simple indicator, maybe, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Everything is full speed ahead. It's a really good time for the industry.
Per, as always, great insights. Thank you very much for making the time.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.